Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to call the joint meeting of the Board of Selectmen and the Budget Committee to order. In attendance, Ann Barney, say aye.
Aye.
Megan
Say aye.
Simeo.
Here.
Chris Genosa. And Charlie Bozzello. And I'm Andy Fitch. Kendall?
This is a joint meeting with the Budget Committee. It is being videotaped. For the Budget Committee, present David Rule, Michelle Roth, I'm Kendall Hughes, David Udelis is absent with notice, and Jamie Lyford is absent with notice.
This time, I think we'll start with the budgets.
So the first one we have is the property taxation reval section of the budget. You see it's flat from last year. For the assessment side of things, this is just pickups. So I talked with our assessor and she seems to think that 10,000 will be sufficient, just as it was this year. And then for the tax map update, that's our vendor, CAI. Their contract did not change with us this year, so their fees have stayed the same. So those are the only 2 lines, if you have any questions. And then legal, looking at the numbers, it seems reasonable to leave that line flat as well. Going to general government buildings, we tried to keep this as level funded. Right now, since we are working on a new power purchase agreement, we don't quite know what the electric rates are going to look like. So talking with Fred, we decided to do a 15% for electric, water, and sewer as a placeholder number to be revised as rates are set further this year. So you'll see that reflected in the first line. Propane, that number is reasonable for us. We don't see a reason to increase it at this point, but you'll see the 15% for water and sewer as well. Again, placeholder numbers. For the cleaning contract, that was just a revision based off of, we now have a new vendor that started about the 3rd month of this year, so projected costs, it went up just a bit there. Postage, we've also seen an increase for postage as the rates have changed a few times now. So we're looking for a $400 increase there just to help with the postage lines. And the remainder has stayed the same. Any questions for general government? And then cemetery, we just do the dollar to keep the line open. We have yet to receive a reason to put more money in there at this point. Will?
Where do you want So, I believe everybody has this sheet, yes? Okay, that'll make things easier. So, I'll go down and discuss the kind of the lines that have changes to them. As most of you who have been on the boards for a while now understand or know that most of our budget is based on contracts. So there's not a lot of stuff, so to speak, in there, but we don't have a lot of control over a lot of the lines. So the first 2 lines are salary lines. The first one is for myself and for the lieutenant, based on contracts. The second line there is for the union salaries, so also based on contracts with the CBA. The first big change you'll see is the OT line, the third one, overtime. We did a 3-year average, and within those 3 years, we've had a number of things change, and we have a bunch of new officers, younger officers. They work hard, and they're very busy, which means that they're in court a lot. So we have through CBA, there's a 3-hour minimum for court. whether the person shows up or not. This just happened Thursday. One of our guys went all the way to court. Nobody showed up. He left court. He's there for 20 minutes and he gets 3 hours. So that's happening repeatedly. The other big thing that changed in the last few years is, according to the CBA and how holiday pay is paid out, that is now coming out of the overtime line. That wasn't the case before, but it is now. So with that, that's drastically increased that line by itself. No change to the next line. Then the 4th of July detail. Last year we started based on Primex's recommendation, order recommendation, depends how you look at it and talk to. They don't want us to pay officers coming in directly. So that's how we used to do. We had a lot of control over that line based on us paying them as town employees. We can't do that anymore because now they're not covered liability-wise, and they're not covered if they get hurt for workman's comp because they're not being paid by their agency. So now they have to bill us. We put a cap on what they can bill, but that line has gone up because we've had to include like the administrative fee that departments have, where we have that as well. But when we were controlling them and paying them as town employees, we didn't have to consider that admin fee. But now we have to consider that in. So we do cap it. And I put it out there to the agency saying that if you're not willing to accept it at this rate, you're not coming. But that line has increased based on having to have them bill us versus us just paying them as town employees. The next line with a change really would be line number 9 for computer maintenance. We're in dire need of a couple of computers in the agency. We have, I think, 2 computers that we're looking to replace, and I believe both of those computers are from 2016, so they're pretty outdated. They're starting to have issues with space, and with we have one computer that won't even be able to handle Windows 11 upgrades now, which means that all of our reporting software can't be used on that computer. So we had a little bit of an increase on that line based on that, where we got to buy a couple of computers there.
Will, if I can, just so if you're not aware, through our IT company, they do a inventory of all of our systems, and they look at things that can no longer be updated, and they let us know what's in those categories. So he actually has like 3 computers that could probably be used to be updated, but we put 2 in for next year. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to share that for those of you who may not know.
Thank you. Vehicle maintenance line, that's based on a 3-year average, so slight increase there, not much. Equipment purchase, we have included, that includes, a big chunk of that is our TASER contract, and that's, again, a contracted line. We also, our firearms are from 2015, I believe, late 15, early 16. And they're starting to have some problems. So we are, I talked to Fred about doing a warrant article we have a bid for new firearms. With that comes a whole lot of different things with it. When I requested to put it in as a warrant article so I could explain the whole kit and caboodle as to why we kind of need them, he said just put it in the budget. So that line got increased fairly significantly because although we're getting a really good rate on the firearms, that's going to increase that line significantly.
What happens to the old firearms?
They get sold.
Okay.
No change the next couple of lines, and then dues, there's a slight increase there because some of our dues went up, and that's for different associations and memberships that we have through certain New England state contracts and things of that nature. Uniform line, we have 2 officers that their vests are expired and we need to get them new vests, so that line is up a little bit based on getting new vests. The vests last for 5 years, and if they are not replaced, I can tell you that I've shot vests that are 30 years old and they stop bullets, but if something were to go through one or something were to happen with one, I mean, the liability is astronomical if we don't replace them. The next line that sees a change of any significance, the training line is up a little bit. We're seeing that all of the trainings that we're sending officers to, we have a minimum number of hours that we have to accommodate, and those hours seem to go up every year, along with the costs of all the trainings that we try to send our officers to. So there's a slight increase there. We are also up to full staff, which means that we have additional officers that do need to meet their training requirements. Our dispatch line is up a bit. That's a 5-year weighted average for usage. The prosecutor line, same thing, that's a 3-year weighted average, and that's based on court cases. So the number of court cases that we have go through the docket in our court system. And then the SOU, their fees went up a little bit, and so that line has gone up. We had an officer that was going to be on the special operations unit, and they are not able to be on it, so you get a little bit of a discount if there's an officer on there, and we don't have one on there currently. The only people that were really eligible with time on the job are not able to do it, so it still is a huge benefit to be a paying member of the team, but we don't have an officer that's eligible to be on that team at this time. And that's really it for changes in the PD. If anybody has any questions, I can certainly try to answer them. No?
Mr. Chairman, I have just a general question, Chief. If you run the numbers, I did quickly, we saw a 40% increase from 2021 to the current budget.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's an inflationary period, and some of that is built into there. Does this even out at some point? I mean, year over year, you're asking for 7%, okay, which is actually an improvement from the prior years. Where do you see this going?
Well, I don't really know how to answer that. I mean, I can't predict contracts and vendors and things like that as they go up over the years. So I mean,
We
I
have
can't.
major contracts coming up within the next year, 2 years the most?
We do. One of them is a rather large one with our body cameras and our in-car cameras, and they wanted us to hop on their current system, which is a $61,000 increase. And currently, our body cameras and our in-car camera systems are no longer warranted through the company. So they have parts that we can buy should something go down, but we are without contract right now for them. So that's going to be an increase that's going to come up at some point in the likely next year, because we're going to have to figure something out. All of the systems that we have in place for those in-car and body cameras they can't be used anymore. So I mean, we can still use them because they're working, but we have a server in the PD for them. They're not doing the servers anymore. They're doing all cloud-based. So in order for us, that came about because I asked we have one of our in-car cameras is quite old, and they said it won't be serviceable anymore. And I said, okay, so what does it cost to get a new one? And that transferred over to, well, you can't get a new one until you upgrade your system. And I said, what do you mean upgrade the system? And so it resulted in a long, in-depth meeting, and he threw it out there as, oh, it's just a $61,000 increase. And I'm like, excuse me? So broken down over 5 years, it's $9,000 a year. So we have to now entertain other options, and there really aren't many. There's Axon, which makes Taser. They have a body-worn camera and in-car system. And then we have Motorola Solutions, which is WatchGuard, which is the other system that is significantly less expensive. There really aren't any other vendors out there for that. So where does it level off? The easy answer is I don't know.
Sounds like we shouldn't expect any good news in the near future.
Well, we try to cut down as much as we can, but again, like I said before, a lot of this stuff is based on contracts that we have. And there's not a lot of contracts, I mean, our Taser, we're locked in right now. I think we're 3 years into a 5-year Taser contract. When that contract comes up, there's no other game in town, and I'm sure their prices have gone up. So we got our biggest expense comes with personnel. And between being full staffed with the salaries lines, we got the CBA the union is going to start to negotiate this coming year because they're in their 3rd year right now of the contract. So that's going to end up changing some things. How significant or not, I don't know, because that's obviously open to negotiation. The rest of the stuff, we're running it pretty much as thin as we can. I mean, I can tell you that comparable agencies in the area have significantly higher budgets than we do. And we're trying to do the best we can with as little as we have. And
Betsy, you're telling us there's very little in here that's discretionary and it's needs driven.
there's not a lot in here that we have a lot of options on. You know, I mean, when it comes to, for instance, like dispatch and prosecutor, unless we hire somebody internal, which, as we all know, it's going to cost a lot more than $22,000 to hire somebody to full-time prosecute. You know, just one person on salary is going to triple that. Our dispatch, there we don't have any other option. You know, we have Grafton Dispatch, but our portables can't even reach Plymouth. Our portables sure as hell ain't reaching Grafton County over in Haverhill. And that's another issue that we have as well, because our portables are all dying and we don't have parts for them, which is going to end up coming through in a warrant article. This is pretty thin, and I know that anybody that has sat down and gone over the budget and has heard me explain it before understands that a lot of this is contractually based, and there's not a lot that we can change in it. So we are running it. I'd love to see it higher, but we are running it pretty thin. You know, and there's a couple of things. I mean, I'm hoping that we don't come anywhere near the expense of the OT line, but again, with the change with the CBA, with all the holidays getting paid out of that line now, that's a huge increase. You know, the court stuff, that's expected and that's planned for, but when that stuff got added, it really increased it a lot.
Where were they being paid out of?
I don't know what line it actually came out of
I
before,
think it came out of the union salary line.
but it was paid differently.
Yeah.
So the big difference now is that it wasn't paid as overtime before, it was paid as straight time. And that was renegotiated in the union contract, and now it's being paid as overtime. So
Time
we're,
and a half?
so
Yeah.
time and a half. So that's increased it significantly. And I want to say that part of that overtime line was paid out of, was taken out of a different spot too, but I can't recall where that's from. But there's a number of large increases here, and most of it is contractually, I mean, pretty much all of it is contractually based. The stuff with the, you know, it's a couple $1,000s here and there for computers and vests. That's not breaking the bank. Would I like to not have them on here? Sure, but I mean, that stuff's not the big stuff. The big stuff is the salaries and the overtime, and then the other contractually based things like the dispatch and the prosecutor. So we're running it pretty thin, but even running it really thin, we've seen a number of increases in the last few years, and big one being the union contract. But in the same breath, that has allowed us to pay our personnel what they should be making, or at least close to what they should be making. And I can tell you again that most of the agencies around here are looking for help. We're one of the few agencies that's fully staffed right
The
now.
retention's been improved?
It has been, we haven't lost anybody in a bit. So I don't want to say that too loud. I want to knock on something hard. But we have a great staff right now, and this is the kind of thing that keeps them here. Everything that we can do to increase morale and keep retention, that doesn't cost anything, we've already done. And now we're implementing some things that do take some money, but the big one was their salaries going up. We were losing, everybody that we lost previously, since I've been here, has been for money. And because we were one of the lowest paid in the area, now we're comparable. We're pretty darn close to the area average. So with that, we're retaining some personnel here, and we have a really good staff right now. So I'd love to see that stay, because running thin is not fun.
And your
Thank
postage
you,
is through
Chief.
town hall? Your postage is through?
Postage is now done through a general building fund.
Yeah,
I
general
think so.
government buildings, that was,
Oh, yeah,
that was
right.
the last one that I went over.
Yeah.
We moved it all into one.
We made one spot for
And clarification for the record.
postage. Yeah. Any other questions?
When does the CBA expire? What's the date?
It's March 30th.
Of 2025?
2026.
Oh,
So they'll start
So we'll start
negotiating
negotiating.
Yeah, so you've like a year and a half. left.
partway through this coming year.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Partway through 25, they'll start negotiating.
Yep, all right.
The next one's mine too, the animal control. It's a one-liner, and it's a contract with the Humane Society. Basically, if we have animals, like dogs, for instance, running at large, we have a contract with the Humane Society, we can bring them down there, and they annually attempt to find the owner, but they basically house them for the period, because we don't have any place to do that. But that, I think it stayed the same anyway.
It's flat, there's no
Yeah.
change.
Any other questions for me? If you do, you know where to find me.
Thanks, Chief.
Not hard to find.
I'm the cop. 911.
We have different numbers.
Chief, you're up.
Want to just go down through the whole?
Yeah.
Okay, just starting with item one, the ambulance contract. I'm not sure how, we signed a new one in the spring, and it appears to be working appropriately. We have a meeting coming up next, by the end of this week, I think, Friday, quarterly, part of one of the quarterly meetings. So I don't, not sure what the term of the contract is in terms of time. I don't recall. It was for-
It goes through June.
Through
It goes
June,
through
okay.
June and then
Yeah,
over, yeah.
because they're on a fiscal budget up there. Salaries, it was an increase of 3%. Again, as Chief Ulrich mentioned, it's difficult to compete. As far as the call department goes, we're not really competing too much with other towns, but as far as the per diem during the day, we are competing with other towns. And, so we've been okay, but, that's a concern, especially since we have taken full responsibility for all transports during the day now. So, that's, it's not an enormous increase, but, need to make some progress there. 4th of July detail, no change. We handle that. In fact, I don't recall a year when we used the entire amount. We've cut back because of changes in the entire, fireworks plan. We've been able to cut back, and we haven't used the same amount of personnel for that. Fire department training stayed the same. That's an integral part of our program. Our EMT, our EMS personnel have to train regularly. We do a lot of that in-house, but they also have to take refresher courses and do other training. Also, we are always, from this line, we get new personnel, and they go through EMS training. They can take courses, and the money comes from this line. As far as fire goes, we've been fortunate in that the last few people we've sent out to the Fire 1 and Fire 2 have been funded classes, but I don't know how long that will last. The Fire Academy got a grant that funded a lot of that training, so we were fortunate there. Contracted services, again, I haven't heard back from a lot of people in terms of any changes in the contract. There are several things. Computer maintenance is contracted, fire alarm monitoring for the station, access, NFPA codes online access, and Active 911, Target Solutions, which is a training platform we use. We have some folks, because of their work schedule, who have a difficult time making some of our trainings that we offer, so that supplements that, and they're able to go online and do the training there and get credit toward recertification as EMTs. The extended warranty from Zoll, they did respond, and that isn't going up. And first responder grants, grant writing assistance, we still are actively pursuing grants. We've been very fortunate in recent years, and I'm still waiting to hear on a grant that we submitted earlier this year for protective clothing. So still waiting to hear on that. Electricity, again, not sure what the new rates are going to be.
Yeah, so we did the placeholder in all budgets that contain electric, water, and sewer.
Yeah, utilities are all that way. Heating oil, I didn't change. We have actually done well, and we have, we have not used as much as we anticipated this year, just over half. And actually the proposed price for next year, because we're in a consortium with SAU2, and the new price we got was lower than what it was last year per gallon, which is fortunate.
Yeah, Chief, do we need an adjustment there? Because in 2021, we were spending half for heating oil. This applies also to vehicle fuel, which, we're significantly
Oh, no,
less.
okay.
Okay, is this being projected out based on the high that we know we all hit?
Yeah.
I mean, it should be, I
Right,
would
and-
think in my mind, it should be decreasing here a little bit because of the prices coming down somewhat.
Sorry, which increasing?
Both, the heating oil specifically, all right?
Yeah.
In 2021, we spent a little over 6,000.
Right.
And now we want
Oh,
12,000.
so the amount spent, you say, is coming down?
Yeah, I mean, I can understand it. In 2023, going up to almost 10,000, it was
Right.
an inflationary period for fuel, but now fuel prices are moderating.
Mm-hmm.
So I would think that you're not going to need the 12,000 by comparison unless the usage is
That's
changed.
quite possible. It's hard to predict what the winter holds for us and how long the heating season is.
Where are we at year-to-date on that?
Pardon?
Where are we at year-to-date on that number?
Oh, boy.
67,
Yeah.
56.
Yeah,
So in Steve's
this is on that.
And we-
narrative on the second page, he actually
Oh.
breaks down gallons of usage for heating oil,
Mm-hmm.
the price per gallon for the contract that he has, as
Oh, wow.
well as the total cost. And on that, he also shows spent of as of date, or 10/17, when this was
Mhm.
prepared.
Yeah, and what I did to get that is, over the last, since 2019, looked at the volume that we used and so forth, and try to calculate using that. It's quite possible. Actually, we haven't taken a delivery since the last one in the spring, and we have not taken a new delivery. I have a lock on the thermostat, so we have a set temperature that we run at. So it seems to be working, but I mean, it's possible it's going to be less than that. I don't.
Yeah, and I think we can flat fund that line based on the cost of oil is going
Down.
significantly down. You're talking like,
Right.
what's that, like
Almost
$1 a
$1.
gallon less?
Not to mention the weather's helping.
Yes, it is.
And there's only 2.5 months left in the year, and we're
Mhm.
$6,700, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, water, the 15% holder, and sewer. Equipment maintenance, I didn't increase that at all. It varies. We've been handling it pretty well. Most of the money expended from that line goes toward parts. Okay? Our town mechanic has done a super job in helping out and keeping those costs down. So, I feel comfortable with that line as it is. But, again, it's hard. We're operating a 37-year-old engine all the way to a brand-new ambulance, so, and everything in between. So it's hard to tell what is. And not surprisingly, the bulk of the money spent this year from that line has gone toward the 1987 Mack truck that we have. But again, the regular maintenance and preventive maintenance has really helped out a lot. And the per diem crew, too, goes through and checks things, so we've found things before they became disasters, because the trucks get checked daily by the crew. And so we've been fortunate there. We've picked things up before they became real issues. Telephone, again, I don't know if that's going to go up or not. Perhaps not, but, that's just for the station landlines. The third line is specifically for the alarm system here. And tablet access for engine 2 and ambulance 1. Printing went up, cost of materials are greater. EMS supplies, that's a key one. We, in the past, have been able to, when we transport, we have been able to do a one-for-one swap with the emergency room up at Spear, with Spear Hospital. They no longer do that. We have to purchase things there now. So Kendall and I, we just put in an order, in fact. It's a different process. So they sent a price list. We did look at different places to see where we could get the best deal. One company we've dealt with is Boundtree over the years. And Spear seems to be very competitive with those other outfits. So and it's local, and we can run up there and get things as we need them. So, but it is critical that we keep that ambulance stocked, and especially since we are transporting, and so it's working a lot better if we go to Spear.
Chief?
Yes,
So it's supplies and medications, correct?
supplies and medications.
For the same program?
Yes.
No,
Yep.
just for clarification.
Yep. And fire department uniforms, protective gear. Again, I have a grant that's still we're waiting to hear on to replace older, worn-out protective clothing, and hopeful. And that amount that I've asked for would be the town share, should we get that grant. Fire department supplies, again, cost of things are paper goods, things that we use in the station to maintain the building, and that sort of thing. It's not actually maintain the building, but I mean to clean the building and cleaning supplies for apparatus and for the station. Postage, again, we've had this long-standing thing with the association that we trade off years. They pay for the box 1 year, we do the next year. I haven't sent anything out, so it's really kind of funny that it was left at $50 for last year. I think it was just a placeholder. But I have not sent, I do it all electronically. And it's a lot faster, and but this, in 2025, is the association's year, the fire department's year to pay that. I suppose, looking at it, we could say, if we change the address to have materials delivered to town hall, we could pick it up there, I suppose. But, something to think about. And vehicle fuel, again, it's hard to tell. Now I anticipate that there's a chance that's going to increase with the fact that we are transporting, and somewhat regularly during the day. We are the primary transport for the town of Ashland. We have made trips to Concord. A lot of times now, if we go to Spear with a patient, they will divert us or say you're going to Concord with them, and it's also, we could end up going to Hanover. So, I
Vehicle usage
anticipate.
is increasing?
I anticipate that, yes. Okay. Fire department physicals, again, that's like a line, a placeholder. This year we did use it. An individual was injured, and I had that line to draw from. The individual went to the emergency room, and that was the fee, and we were able to cover it out of that line. Equipment, again, where a lot of the equipment we carry on the trucks, this is primarily for, and we have a set of extrication tools that are older. Older. So I'm actually working on the grant period opens up again this late fall, and that's what I'm applying for this year into next year, is a new set of extrication tools. But again, that line is critical to replace worn out equipment, anything that we carry on the trucks. Also medical equipment too. The things that we use on the ambulance that we may need to replace. Mutual aid dues, again, I have not heard anything from the mutual aid regarding an increase. They're still early in their budget process. They haven't even released a initial proposal to us yet. And then all the mutual aid towns hold several meetings to go over their budget, and then it gets settled, gets decided upon. Forestry equipment, it's again same as it was last year. I keep it at that because what we do there are forestry grants. It's a matching fund. thing. And if we need anything, and we've used it over the years and been very successful with that grant program too. So particular items like replacing hand tools, replacing forestry hose, things of that sort, comes out of that line. Building and grounds, again, this covers the cost of operating the building in terms of, everything from getting the overhead doors checked. It's somewhat critical that they open every time we try. And getting the extinguishers on the apparatus and in the station checked. That's a requirement for as far as extinguishers go. And then the grants line, again, for covering the town's share of grants and also paying the first responder grants for grant writing assistance. We have had more success since we've been using that program. So, in emergency management, if you were to look on this bank up back here, you would notice that an emergency generator is missing. It is off somewhere being, I guess it blew a head gasket, so they took the whole thing out of there, and it's getting that replaced. So the request for that is to cover that once it comes back. We're not sure when it is actually going to be back. Normally that line is obviously not that much, because it just covers the propane, which we had filled in the spring, and then the thing went, so we haven't used any of the propane, so we won't be doing that next year. It'll be there. That generator is currently out of service. I'm not sure, I haven't heard anything yet from the company in terms of when it's due back. First of all, Craig Moore did a great job using his crew to get that thing out of there, and it had to go out for testing, and they found out what the problem was. They thought they were going to have to replace the entire thing. That would have been huge, but they found out no, it's the head gasket, it's blown, and they can fix that and a few other minor issues with it. Any questions?
Can we find out when that generator is going to be returned? Because if it's returned before the end of the year, obviously,
Yeah.
we would need to budget this.
Yes, we would, and so we have, and I had spoken with Fred about that too, that should it come back. I was out of town when that went down, so I did talk with Fred, said if that comes back, there was a line where the emergency management, over a period of years, an account was built up. What was it, capital reserve, or what it was. Yeah.
Yep.
So that would need a vote of the legislative body, I believe, to utilize it. Just the board? Actually, not just the board, the board.
So you're saying that, like, I was transported by Plymouth ambulance 2 or 3 different times, and I had to pay Plymouth picking me up. So you guys are gonna be doing that now?
We are doing it, we have been since June, July 1st.
Yep.
Okay.
We started doing that. We're the primary from 8 o'clock in the morning until 5, because I have a crew here. Okay, so we're, and that's critical. If we're gonna take that responsibility on, we gotta be sure that ambulance gets out. Okay, from 5 o'clock until 8 o'clock the next morning, Plymouth is on contract with us. Okay? So we're still responding, but Plymouth is coming in case I don't get that second EMT out.
Okay,
Okay?
okay. I'm just wondering, because I got
Yep.
a lot of medical.
Yeah, good question. Hopefully you aren't gonna need us.
Chief, how are we doing on major pieces of equipment going forward? The 1987 truck, for example.
well-
Your stuff is expensive.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
We really want to anticipate.
I think it's time to start conversation about how we would go about replacing engine 1, the Mack. It is old. It's gotten a lot of attention over the last couple of years, and it's fine. A lot of the younger folks don't care for that truck too much. It's a standard.
When you know what the wait list is, right?
Oh yeah,
Right now, I mean, you're talking years.
yeah. You are. I was looking today, there were trucks that were, deals that were closed this week where the delivery of the truck won't happen until 2027. So it's not too early to start looking at how there are a number of ways that we could go about doing that, which, you know, but we do need to start talking about that. Yeah.
Thank you.
All set?
So that concludes the joint meeting. Now a Board of Selectmen meeting. First item on the Board of Selectmen meeting is approval of minutes for October 7th.
The next meeting we have.
Are they here?
No.
They're back at the electric building?
Oh, the meeting, like this, will
Yeah.
happen here.
Okay.
Yeah, as long as Steve's not.
Noted.
I'll email him. How does that sound?
Someone text me. I make a motion to pass the minutes as written for the Monday, October 7th board meeting.
I-
Second that.
Good.
So I have a motion and a second to approve the October 7th meeting minutes as written. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is the website proposals.
Okay. So Luann and I have spent a lot of time looking at some vendors for the website. I hope you all had some time to look at my summary, maybe even look at some of the websites from the vendors that we spoke with. I'm not sure how you'd like me to go about this, but we have the first vendor has a pretty affordable approach, and it would be a far more efficient process than what we currently have, which is why we started this whole thing in the first place. So the first one is Town Cloud. They have a pretty reasonable pricing structure after the initial 3-year period. But they're offering a 30% discount if you commit to 3 years right off the bat, and they're waiving the implementation. One of the questions that first got asked to me when we talked about this initially was the downtime. There essentially isn't any. There'll be about like a 20, she said generally it's about 20 minutes between websites going live and coming down. She has seen it come up as much as an hour, but typically it's a pretty quick switch over when you go live, because they build everything out initially and then they switch it. The other vendor showed us a couple different options. They showed us one which was like, give us the whole world and the price tag to go with it, which, although had a lot of bells and whistles, wasn't something that we felt the town really needed. Like it would definitely fix the issues we feel that we have, but it was not in line with where we were going as far as pricing went. And so we were pretty upfront with that vendor, so they showed us a second option, which is their more affordable option. But when we weighed out the first vendor versus their affordable option, we went, okay, the price for their affordable option, it still doesn't really fall in line with what we could get from the first vendor. So that being said, I had kind of given you where we were looking to go. This would have an agenda suite, so agendas would be made in this program and transferred over to the website as called a card. So it would make an event. Everything would be housed there. So if you ever went back to look at the history, the agenda's there. Any meeting materials would be made available online. So that would be there. When the minutes are drafted and approved, that would also go onto the same card, and then the video as well would have a little icon. So when you go to look for a meeting, everything related to that meeting is in the same spot. You don't have to search for it, it's not in different areas, it's all in one area. And then it also can make a calendar like we currently have. One of the other questions, I think Andy, you might have asked me about the front page and how we have our newsletter. They have like little flashcards that have images on them, and what we would do is make the same thing, but also make an archive so you could go back and look at old issues that we've put out, if you will. So do you have any questions for me?
Marissa, does this address some of the issues we have in terms of like recording some of the board meetings that are held? And
Those are two separate issues.
Okay, they're separate.
So one is working with PBTV to enable us to record additional meetings, but that wouldn't affect how they're still presented online.
So there's no solution here that is more straightforward where we could operate it ourselves, for example? I mean,
They're just two separate things. So we work with PBTV for them to do the recordings for us, but I've spoken with Jonathan and we're gonna get you guys some training for the different boards so that you will be enabled to press play and record. It's just not something that's done in conjunction with the website. It's just a separate issue.
okay, but yeah, but an important issue and, you know.
Oh, it certainly
hopefully
is. You
we'll
can
do
still, so
something
everything will
with
still be linked there. So you know how people come to our website to get to the link in order to see the videos, that'll still be there. We'll be able to put the direct link in for the YouTube video for that specific meeting with the meeting that exists. I generally speak more so with Board of Selectmen because I'm dealing with you directly. I'm your minute taker, but that can be applicable for Budget Committee, Planning Board, Zoning Board. Those cards
That's
will
right.
be
We need to expand that to the
Exactly.
other boards.
So those cards I'm talking about, and the only way I can explain that better is if you look at the websites, it makes an actual card that'll say like Board of Selectmen meeting, 10/21, and it'll have the agenda, any meeting materials that were shared, the minutes when they're approved, and the link to the video.
And
So-
you'll manage that?
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
still managed between myself and Luann.
Okay.
And then like Fred could create the agenda in there. Instead of spending this time on recreating templates for minutes, you actually do it all in the system, and that system kicks it over. In that process, it can also send out emails to you when your packets are available. If we make a single change, that link that you already got in your email already has the update on it. So it's already enabled to do things in a more efficient manner than the current process.
So you can scan our packets in?
Yes, so everything could be
Fantastic.
electronic. The other cool feature that we actually did like a revisit with them, was you can start building out meetings kind of ahead of time. So if there's something on your meeting tonight that you say, well, I want to revisit this on our 2nd November meeting, you can start building that so it doesn't get kind of misplaced, if you will. So it's a pretty cool feature that works together. So they did price us out as 3-year with the 2 pieces, the agenda and the website, for that total of $4,384.80, and that's for 3 years total. If you look at the other vendors, their prices are just higher. Not that we wouldn't appreciate either of these vendors. They both did a great job. We were really like, either of these solutions would help us. We just felt like where we're going is we just need to kind of fix the processes that are there. And they're gonna help us kind of dissect the website as it is and make it more efficient. One of the core issues is that like we didn't help set it up, so there's kind of links everywhere. So like a department head will be like, "Can you update this form?" And then we find out it exists in 3 or 4 other places. So this would house it all in one area, and when you update that link, it updates it everywhere. So that's one of the things that when we talked to this vendor, they had a really good handle on how to implement effectively and help you kind of clean up your current setting and make it much easier for people to use. The other thing I also wanted to mention is as we went through this, we talked about ADA compliance. Both of these vendors would take care of that. There's new legislative acts through New Hampshire and Maine that deal with compliance for websites. And both of these vendors would be able to be in compliance with that. So that's what I have.
You need a decision on this, right?
If you could make one, that would be great. but that's entirely up to you.
So your recommendation is the lower cost?
Is the town cloud. It seems to be the most effective and efficient and price point. I mean, that's
different price-wise.
it's a very, in my opinion, from the research we've done, reasonable 3-year price. And they've told me that while they've been in business, they have rarely changed their prices. It generally is when you have like those add-on features, which we kind of looked at as like, these are possible solutions moving forward, but they have the capabilities to integrate them, like a mass notification system, reporting features, stuff like that. But for the core pieces to kind of fix those right away, this seems to be the most reasonable, and they're local, so they're like, we can come into your office if you need us to, which is also really nice.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the recommendation for the town cloud system for the website.
I'll second.
So I have a motion and a second to accept the town cloud as our new website provider. Do we have any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Greg and Paula Finnegan.
So I'm not very good at this stuff, so you'll have to bear with me. I'm terrible in public speaking. But we wanted to discuss the approval of $65,000 to $7,000 to survey the campground. It was approved on 7/15/2024, and it was stated at the time that it was necessary to remove everything from the campground and so that they could do this survey, which in turn, we were given the actual estimate from Tony Randall that specifically states he is there using, this is essentially going to be an existing site plan condition for $65,000 to $7,000. It specifically denotes the fact that it will not be locating the subsurface utilities, setting stakes to delineate sites. It feels this is something that you, as the owners, should be involved in based on your knowledge of the sites. This concern is because you're allowing, you've already accepted a $65,000 to $7,000 estimate, which, watching all the board meetings, watching Mr. Denosa ask the question multiple times, does this include GIS mapping, does this include this? It doesn't. It's not in the proposal, it's not included, so in our opinion, this is an estimate that was just basically to go in, kind of look at things, what do you want me to say? You want me to put this here, you want me to put that there, I'll mark off this site and mark off that site, but you need to be here to do that. What is the next fee going to be? Because it specifically states, once they've determined what you, and that's the reference in the letter, the quote, what you have decided for where you want him to mark the sites, then he can move forward to give a more accurate cost to this next part of the job. So this isn't just $6,500 or $7,000. This is basically asking the taxpayers to pay $65,000 to $7,000 to have an area surveyed based on nothing, based on, it doesn't make sense. And in fact, I've also, and I'm happy to provide them, pulled up 6 area GIS mappings of 6 area campgrounds, which you'll clearly see just show the large area. There's no such thing as a mapping out a campground. There's the map for that one, there's the site plan. The site plan is done by the owners of the campground. It's determined this is where we want these sites to be. Our concern primarily is the fact that you're asking us to accept the fact that you've just allocated $7,000 for something that is not providing any service to the town or the taxpayers. That's our concern, right there for that one item. But go ahead.
Okay. So, in my opinion, the survey is needed so that when we do the tracing of our lines when we find, because we have no clue where anything is in that campsite. We actually went in the other day and we found circuit breakers for about 10 or 12 campsites. Can't find any for any of the rest of them, which means they're tied in everywhere.
Right, they're all daisy chained, we knew that. When
Well,
everybody-
they're not all daisy
A lot of
chained,
them
but-
are, but yes. But the point
and-
is,
And you don't know where the lines are.
right, but that's
if we
the
get the
obligation.
survey-
The electricians can do that, the electrical company should do that, shouldn't they, not the surveyor?
The electric company is going to do
Okay.
that, but the surveyor is going to put in points where we can find, we can locate the lines. He's going to say where the sites are, he's going to put in pins or markers of some kind, and we will be able to put the electrical lines, it's so far from this pin, we'll know where stuff is. We need to know where stuff is.
I agree, but,
So is gonna be able to trace these lines electrically?
Yes. The electric
So the
department is
electrician-
going to be able to trace them, yes.
but he specifically
But that
states
doesn't
he's
have
not doing
anything to
that.
do
No,
with
he's
the-
not going to do it, we're going to do it,
The electric company's going to do it.
yes.
And so Tony Randall is going to literally look at where the water line comes in, where the electrical, the tower is, where each 23 sites has a tower, has a hydrant where the water is turned on.
Yep.
And what
Along
is,
with the
what is,
panel.
what is he going to determine from that to decide where to delineate the sites?
Tony?
So everybody's got their knickers in a twist, it looks like. This is what and if you look at my quote, if the town maps that stuff out, I'll locate it. I don't have the equipment to locate it, okay? They're gonna get a site plan, which is what they really kind of need, so they can delineate where the sites are gonna be for everybody in there, okay?
Aren't they already delineated?
Yeah, you can look at that little crappy map that somebody put together, but it doesn't match what's on the ground. See, this plan's gonna be scalable. Okay, it's just like a boundary survey that you get. Everything will be to scale. You'll be able to fit stuff in there. You'll know exactly where that stuff is. And as far as the GIS stuff, they can take my plan and put it into their GIS system if they want to, and lay it in there. They do that with survey stuff all the time. So, you know, to think that I'm charging an exorbitant amount of money to do something like that, they could get prices from somebody else to do it.
No, nobody said it was an exorbitant amount of money.
At the end of the
Just is it
day,
necessary?
at the end of the day, I live here in town, I grew up here in town, and this is what I can tell you something. I treat the town very fair when I do stuff for them.
I know you
Okay?
do. No
So,
one's questioning that.
And like, you can't decide on what configuration you want for lots in there until you actually get a base map so you can figure out, here are the sites, now what are we gonna do? You have to sit down with them to figure out, what do you want to do? I don't know how long that's gonna take, right? I don't know what they wanna put in for corners. I mean, I could tell you, I could set a 5/8 inch rebar with my license number and cap on the top of it. That's gonna cost you $25 a piece. But I don't think this job needs that. It maybe needs some type of material that they could buy at Ashland Lumber, whether it's a 2-foot long pipe that's driven in the ground so people know where their lots are over there. It's gonna show the roadway going in there. All the water shutoffs will show. If they mark out electrical lines and stuff, I'll be more than happy
So
to show
why
those
did
on the
everybody
plan.
have to move the campus out of that campus?
Okay, so that's the other thing that really came up, and nobody really seemed to listen to me when I talked about it. What I'm doing, as much stuff out of my way as possible, makes my job a lot easier. That's why I said I wasn't gonna go in there until after the leaves come down, okay? Because that'll speed up the process. It's time. Time is money, okay? If I can get in there and do it quicker, it's gonna be cheaper for the town. That's why I didn't do it in the thickness with everything in there. My thing was, as much stuff that can be moved out of the way as possible, I need moved out of my way. It just makes it easier for me. I have no idea what other stuff they're doing in there. They're doing something, I guess, with electrical and the water lines. Okay, so I'll be in contact with the water and sewer department, because I think they're doing the work.
Yeah.
And we'll have conversation with him so that we know where everything is gonna be. I guess they're taking down some of the spigots or something?
All the hydrants are being replaced. They're either being extended out 5 feet or they're being pulled back 5 feet so that they're 5 feet away from the sewer, as they should be.
So when I get there, if that stuff hasn't been taken care of, I'm gonna come back and grab it for them.
Yeah.
It's just part of making the complete site plan that everybody's looking for, at least the board's looking for, to better plan what's going on in there.
And when you mentioned that this is just basically a existing site plan?
Existing
What
site
is
plan.
existing there now?
That's what I'll start with, but then, I'll coordinate with the water and sewer.
So
about
that would be
when
an
they're gonna-
additional cost to the town?
Well, I guess we can say it will be an additional cost, but it really won't be, if you know what I'm saying. Because it's part of what I'm gonna do anyways. So that's included in there.
And the end result for the last 50, 60 years that the campground has been in existence, and there was never any, other than that crappy map as you refer to it. How is this going to increase value to the town of Ashland?
How is it gonna increase value to the town of Ashland? Maybe they figure out they can throw a couple more sites in there.
Well, if that's
Who
the case,
knows?
then that means they have to
But-
redo
but
all the
maybe-
sewer
I just
and
want
the
to stop
water.
you for a
and-
second. It's a safety concern. We're doing a lot of electrical and sewer work. It's not that we're trying to recreate the campground to bring more value to Ashland. If someone gets hurt at that campground because of faulty electrical work, that's on us.
And right,
So that's a big concern for the people of Ashland. That
So-
can bankrupt the town.
well, I agree. It's a lot of things that could bankrupt this town. It's not, it
But
wouldn't
the
take much.
liability for something that we know about and we allow it to continue, knowing about it is negligence on behalf of the town, and we're not gonna let that
So this has
happen.
nothing to do with the survey. This is just about you getting the electricians in there to be able to mark out the electrical.
This is all connected. I just wanted to say, when you were
Right.
saying, so what is the survey bringing value to Ashland? This all is pieces together. And it's not that we want everyone to leave because we want to create more lots and create this transient
Right,
campground.
exactly.
We have to do this for safety.
Can I
Okay.
ask a question? What is the specific electrical issue? Because in all of the documentation I have, it says that the cable is not in conduit. I had a licensed electrician out there, it's direct aerial cable.
Here, I'll let Andy take that one.
So,
I'm happy to if you want.
Site number 12 had issues in May. I'm not exactly sure what they were, but we had the electrician and we had the town electric company out there and they could not locate the problem. We suspect it is between the supply and the site. We don't know.
And I had the electrician look at it. The GFCIs in there are not in code. The GFCIs need to be replaced.
And that is one thing that is going to be taken care of. That's already been discussed.
The complaint on site 12 was the guy would plug his blower in, it would pop the GFCI.
Yeah, see, I'm not familiar with what happened. All I know is the end result was they were without power on this site.
Not totally without power, his GFCI would not work.
Yeah.
He'd reset the GFCI, and it would work for a period of time, which according to the electrician says that there is no ground fault there.
Yeah. Well, that stuff's all gonna be taken care of. That's part of the reason why we had everybody move out. We need to dig dirt. We need to move dirt.
So how long is that process gonna take for you guys to do what you gotta do?
We expect to be open for next season.
Okay?
So the other item that I wanted to discuss to the point about the electrical is there was, on August 5th, there was a request for $39,403, which was for this major electrical issue, which involved digging up the entire campground, and the meetings they discussed with Craig and whomever that, well, we don't know if we're gonna have to repave, we don't know how extensive it's, we're gonna have to dig the whole place up. So that $39,000 request is off the table, is that what you're saying?
That was just an estimate that we got fearing the worst.
Well, no, it was a specific estimate, I have it.
Yes.
That was to put everything in conduit, which
If we had to,
which
yes.
clearly you don't have to. So
No.
that $39,000 is not going to be
Is off the
proposed.
table.
Off the table. Now, there was another request for the backflow and tamper cage for $1,300. This was for materials only, and an additional replacing the yard hydrants was $250 each, and this was materials only. So my question is, these things are basic maintenance items, should have been being maintained over the years, someone should have been doing something up there, but they didn't. Now these items need to be done at the same time, campground's empty, you got what you wanted, now it's time to do these things. It specifically states that this is materials only, and yet you continue to say, our people are gonna do this, our electrical company, our highway guys. That's a cost to me as a taxpayer in the town. Like, I don't think it's fair to ask me, if I'm not part of the campground, to pay for the highway department and the electric department to be doing work at the campground without some benefit to the town. So I wonder, how do you address that?
That's a big part of what's going on in the aggregate. This whole thing kind of came to everybody's attention when we had a request for the town to put money into the campground. Now, the bookkeeping there is hard to define, so it's just, we didn't have an answer. But your question is the important one. This is a revenue-generating entity for the town, the campground, and at least some of us believe that no town money should be going into the maintenance, the upkeep of this campground.
Agreed.
Well, for that to happen, we really need to get our arms around what's it gonna take to run the place. And then all these issues of what needs to be upgraded, what needs to come up to code, maybe even where we intend to go with it in the future, what needs to be repaired. That all has to be defined, because we need to look forward and say, hey, this is the revenue that this campground is going to need. And then we need a business plan that says, here's how the campers are going to put the money up so that these costs are covered and we don't have to go to the town treasury in order to have it funded. That is.
I've been getting $80,000 a year.
Yeah.
Right, but we have to
Yes,
get it to a safety
that's right.
baseline before we can continue to operate it.
Right.
That's the
And
underlying.
put $5,000 a year away. So
Exactly.
there's something
In other words,
there.
make sure we're
That's what we're
covering
trying to
going
do.
forward the expected expenses in the future.
But for the general public that has been basically trashing everybody up there, saying we take advantage of the town, we do whatever we want, we don't contribute to the town, that $80,000 a year, and Anne Marie will agree, goes towards some very valuable programs in the town. So although right now there is an expenditure that has to be addressed, the monies that they've been getting from the campground for long before we've ever been there, and that was over 30 years, has been going towards
There has been a
programs that were
contribution.
important and valuable to the town.
Absolutely, and we want
We're
to make
not
sure.
just campers.
We want to make sure that continues, and, the real answer to your question is, we don't know exactly what the budget for that campground should be, whether the pricing that we have in place makes any sense or not. And that, we took it on as a board to say, you know what, it's time we get past that and know what we're doing,
Okay.
basically.
Safely. I just
Safely,
wanna-
that's right, and absolutely safely, up to code with everything in that campground.
Yeah, so when the decision was made to clear the campground, and the reasons, whether it was the survey or major electrical issues or whatever the discussion was at that meeting, each different time, at this point, the campground has been cleared. On September 23rd, I think it was, on September 23rd, 23 members of that campground at every site was given a letter, both mailed to them and left at their sites, but, those ones weren't left at the site, they were mailed to them, stating that there would not be a camping season, they would not be issuing any applications for the camping season for 2025, indicating that you're not gonna open in 2025. Everybody freaked out. We're like, well, not only are we gonna have to figure out what we're gonna do to store our campers for this winter, but they're not even gonna be open next year. everybody had to make other arrangements. So pretty much everybody has. There's like 3 people that, well, a couple that have decided to stop camping, a couple that might come back and lose whatever deposit they have, but most of the people have made other arrangements. To Greg's point, that's an $80,000 income stream that has been coming into the town. The conversation about residents get first preference, it should be a lesser charge, whatever. I can tell you, and I have all the documentation that will show you, in 2000, when the campground closed for the major federal, state regulations about sewer systems near the water, they closed down for almost 2 years. During that period, the only people that came back, there was 25 sites at the time, the only people that came back were 2 of us. Everybody else made other arrangements, they'd been somewhere else. The risk is, now you've alienated these people, you basically forced them into getting another campsite, they've already had to have their deposits down. So everybody's got $1,500, $2,000 down for their new site. Now if you decide to open in the spring, and who's gonna be there? And where does that, how do you make up that revenue that you've just lost by all those people not coming back to the campground next year? I can tell you, in 2022, 2023, it took 3 years for them to get that campground filled again after they reopened. And if you're gonna make it everybody's gonna move their camper out every year, or making it, a different accommodations, it's gonna be more difficult for you to fill those campsites.
And what's the waiting list now?
25.
Okay.
And I've had a bunch of people town people call me and ask to be put on.
Great. Well, then you don't have to worry about it. You'll have $80,000 next year. Just not from the same people that were there the last 20 and 30 years. Which is unfortunate, because you don't know that that's a guarantee, and you don't know what kind of people you're gonna get there. You've had pretty good luck, so.
But we did know we had safety issues.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're addressing those. So I guess the last thing was, well, I suppose you've pretty much decided you don't care if we come back or not anyways. But the concerns were, my question was, in the deed, I've talked to family members of Ed Doggett and people that know him, people here that knew him and knew what his intentions were. In the deed, there were some specific restrictions or requirements that you were to meet. Is that not correct? One
I
of
believe
which,
so, yes.
you believe so? Was one of them the thing about the town people get first dibs? You quoted
Yes.
it as being a deed restriction.
Yep, it's in there.
And what about it being maintained as an affordable family campground? Was that one of the portions?
No.
I
Those
didn't, it
wording is
didn't
not
catch
in
my eye.
No? But what happens if you don't maintain those guidelines? Like, they deeded the beach, the parking lot, and the campground as one property, and that was with some stipulations. If you do not abide by those stipulations, is there a risk of it being reverted back to the family?
I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. I'm not a legal expert. You'd
So
have
there's-
to ask a lawyer.
Are there any repercussions if you don't abide by the regulations?
That is another issue that's on the table that we will be looking at, because this will be a comprehensive view of that campground, including what we were given and the conditions that accompanied that gift. So, and we are sensitive to that gift because it was a very gracious gift.
Oh, it sure was.
And so we will be including an analysis of that, and we will make sure that we abide by what the intentions were.
So there is nothing preventing, to your knowledge right now, from you preventing you to sell it or do anything you want with it? It's your land as far as you're concerned.
I don't think anyone's
There's
saying
no intention of doing any of
No, but
that.
I'm asking, is there anything to prevent that from happening?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
No, I think we have to table this. I think you're asking us legal questions about a deeded land, and I don't think that, even if we knew legally, I don't think we should be answering that.
Okay. Well, I just hope that the spirit of his gift is maintained.
And we intend to do that.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? You keep talking about safety issues, and I know that in one of the meetings, Ann mentioned that, again, all of the cable needed to be in conduit, which we had confirmed that it was direct burial cable. There wasn't any safety issue as far as that went, and it was intended to be buried for 50 years. And it also seems like there's some misunderstanding about the GFCI, because that's just a switch that can be changed for like under $50 a campsite. So, and nothing had to be moved. I mean, what you're not really recognizing is that many of the people who came into that campground purchased campers, made major investments to get in and to stay in, because the common theme was that you could stay as long as you paid your dues, etc. Because people invested in accessory structures that were approved by the Board of Selectmen and permitted, and then you're requesting that everything be taken down. That cost money. I mean, there were people that had to pay $10,000 over that to remove structures that were approved and permitted by the town, and you keep talking about a safety issue that really doesn't exist. And, you know, again, that GFCI, it's just like a circuit breaker that's shut off. It needs to be changed. It's, again, for $50 per site. I think it feels to me like you put the cart before the horse, and there was an opportunity to have, a master electrician confirm that there was no safety issue without even having to empty the campground. And I think you've done a serious injustice to the people who have invested in their future, including us. We made a major purchase this year. My husband's retiring, and we intended to stay there. And we spent $18,000 just a few years ago to be in that campground. And I mean, I'm outraged, really, that you have not really considered how many people, how many human beings, retired, disabled
Okay,
people
ma'am,
you have.
we're gonna stop this right now. We do have water issues. We need to move on to another subject.
Yes, please.
Next item on our agenda is Housing Champion designation. Marissa, do you know anything about this?
I do not. Fred gave you some emails,
Yeah.
and he did not review that with me before he left.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep. Go ahead, Kendall.
Housing Champions came before the planning board on the 25th of September. They gave a presentation to us. It is available online. They're a new agency that is just starting in New Hampshire through the Bureau of Economic Development, and they have different low and medium income housing projects to help communities with startup costs for such things. That would also include single-family apartments in houses as well as complexes. The money would go directly to the community, and for the community to absorb what charges it needs to. It's a one-time fee, and it's not a whole lot. But if you watch the video, there is a good explanation of it.
I think we should table
I think
this
we
till
must
we
have
can
changed the
watch the
emails
video.
already. Yeah.
We need to know more.
Where's the video?
PVTV, planning board, September 25th.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is raffle permit for Christmas night in Ashland. The raffle is for various donated gifts on December 6th. Winner does not need to be present to claim a prize. I'll make a motion that we approve this raffle permit.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to approve the raffle permit. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Amy, can I close this door?
Yes. Next item on the agenda, we have a letter from CCI Communications. They want to offer us 3 years for 1 gig of dedicated internet.
Andy, do you mind if I talk to this one?
Yeah, go
I think I
ahead.
have to, so I talked to the Grafton County Middle Mile people today, and I thought that was, we were getting fiber for free through them, and they haven't selected a vendor yet. So I can reach out to Mark and see what this is regarding, because we would get free fiber for the town buildings through Middle Mile, and then the idea would be we would piggyback off of that vendor to run fiber to everyone's house to offer low unlimited internet. So let me follow up on this one, because it might be some wires crossing.
Sounds good.
Yeah, Megan, that's what we thought.
Yeah. I just talked to them
happening.
today, so
Okay.
they're breaking ground. I don't know what that means for fiber, but we all got invited to the ribbon cutting, but they haven't selected a vendor, so I'll figure it out.
Next item on the agenda, process for changing utility rates, water, sewer, and electric.
So, we've now signed the PPA with Vespa for our locked-in rate for electric. So I talked to Fred, and he kind of volleyed it to the board to talk about the process for setting electrical rates. He said that in the past, generally you would get a consultant to work out the fees, but we also know that the electric department has also taken part in setting the fees.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
not, so I'm looking for guidance from you.
Well, so the Vermont, specific to the electric piece here.
Yeah,
not
water and
the water and
sewer we're working on, so Andrew, myself, and actually Chris is working with us. We'll be getting you some information about the water and sewer rates
Okay.
probably in the next month or so, but more so the electrical piece.
The electric piece, so Vespa is actually, they were a consultant on this.
Oh, they
So-
were?
Yes, so
So-
Vespa actually went out to bid. So I went out to bid and then Vespa went out to bid, that's their job. So part of the service we pay for is they reach out to all of the electric providers. They ask for a forward-looking bid, and then that's how we landed at the price. So we're doing what.
Oh, the
Fred's-
so like because we have tiered rates.
Right.
Our rates out to the customers.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, I'm not in trouble then, I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, okay.
I
So-
was like-
The last time we did this, we did have a consultant come in for
Okay.
the electric.
Could that
I don't remember what the fees were, do you, Leanne?
Gotcha. Could Vespa do that, I wonder?
Not
But-
sure.
Okay, we can ask them.
I think we need an impartial arbiter for this.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
You know, so that.
That's what we did the last time.
And there's a little sense of urgency, which is why I came to you at your very next meeting, because the rate will go into, our rate that we'll pay will go into effect in January. So we need to
Okay.
be on the forefront of this. So if you'd like, I can, Megan, you want me to send that email to Vespa and CC you on it?
Yeah.
And
If
see
you
if
wanna
they
start
have
that, I'll
consulting
do
services?
fiber if you wanna do
Okay.
consulting.
So if
I'll
you're
look-
okay with that?
I'll look through the information that I have. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure I have the
you
last
changed the
time we
rates
went for rates.
In
for rate change.
2021,
Yeah,
so.
I think I've got all that information.
Okay. Would you like, would the board be okay with me reaching out to Vespa? about-
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Great.
yes. Yeah, because we have a consulting contract with them anyway, so if they can do it under that.
That would be great.
Now the next one to you.
Capital reserve for town building for $3,927.40 for park and rec.
Yes, that is, we had an issue with one of the bathrooms at the Booster Club, and in the process, we had to get 2 new toilets for the bathroom, and there was leakage down the wall into the basement, and this is to get it cleaned up. Got other estimates that were like double what this one was. But this is just looking to get that cleaned up.
So I'll make a motion, we transfer $3,927.40 out of capital reserve for the park and rec department for a cleanup.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
No.
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Impact fees.
Should I Fred fill this out? Is this something Fred fills out or? we fill
Kendall
out?
again.
Kendall fills out?
So the planning board is looking into impact fees. I didn't know this was going to be on the agenda for tonight. We're only starting our process.
Okay. I guess we can table that until you complete your process. Next item on the agenda, Tony Randall.
It's encore.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. I brought some paperwork with me. It's basically about, I'm doing some survey work down on Collins Street that abuts the transfer facility along the river. And in the process of doing the survey, I run into some issues with the town's deed, my client's deed, and about every other deed that was written down in there. So I'm gonna give you a couple of plan copies here so that you can share them to look at them. So you'll understand what I'm talking about, and what we're looking for is the town to enter into a boundary line agreement. Okay, and this is the line that we're talking about right here. This line right here, common to the town. I just have everybody just kind of quickly read the notes, because I put a note on there about doing the boundary line agreement with the town. It's note number 2. So when you read the town's deed, it pretty much starts at the right-of-way of Interstate 93, and it comes over, I think it says plus or minus 60 feet. I'll read this to you. Okay, so this was the deed to the town. It says, beginning at a point marked by a stone monument set in the ground, which point is 60 feet more or less easterly of Interstate 93 right-of-way. If you look over there by Interstate 93, you'll see 2 highway bounds. Sometimes when people write deeds, they see the square on a plan, if there's a plan or whatever, and they call it a stone post or a stone bound. Well, it's not. It's really actually made out of concrete, because it's a concrete highway marker. That, I believe, is the point that they're talking about. Okay, and then what it says thence northeasterly direction, 400 feet more or less, along the brow of the hill, along the old paper mill property. So if you look at my plan, the dark, you'll see the green dashed line, it says top of bank. Well, that top of the bank is the brow of the hill. Okay, that comes along, and then you'll see the dark black line that goes up all the way to a stone post, a 3-sided pointed stone post. That there is following along the brow of the bank, okay? 400 feet doesn't get you to the stone post that's called for. It's more like 800 feet. It's 863 feet. So we searched and searched along the brow of this bank at 400 feet to see if we could find a stone post. Couldn't find any. The only stone post at the brow of the bank is 800 feet away. When you read my client's deed, he actually goes past the Squam River over to a point and then along the town property. So my confusion is that we are supposed to have 400 feet to the stone post, but we have 800 feet. And I think the town and my client, everybody's best interest, is that we clear up this by doing an agreement to that point. And then it talks about the town deed. It goes along the brow of the bank to a stone post, and then it goes stone monument set in the ground, thence running in an easterly direction, which is towards the river, 100 feet more or less to the bank of the Squam River. Well, if you look at my plan, it's 105.5 feet to the bank of the river. They're using to the nearest, I don't know, 10 feet maybe here, when they're writing this deed. Thence they go northerly up the river for 1,800 feet to the Boston and Maine Railroad right-of-way. Thence in a westerly direction along the right-of-way, 1,000 feet more or less to the aforementioned Interstate 93 right-of-way. Then they go southerly along the Interstate 93 right-of-way, 2,000 feet more or less to a point, thence turning and running in an easterly direction, 60 feet more or less to the point begun at. So I think they were using these two highway bounds as that 60-foot point. When you get back down there, then you go 60 feet from the interstate highway to the stone post, which really is a concrete bound. And it's supposed to be 60 feet. This says 55.07. That's what I measured it at. I think those are the points they were talking about when they craft this deed. A couple of things about this deed is there's no meaning in intending. There was some survey work that was done for the town. The surveyor came along Collins Street to the river and then went up the river, which is not correct because the town's deed does not get to the river. Only 400 feet away does it get to the river, okay? The other thing with the other survey is that Collins Street, when Collins Street was actually relayed out by the Interstate 93 project when it went through, so there's actually meets and bounds descriptions of where that right-of-way would be. The information that he has does not match my plan, which I tied into highway bounds on the other side of 93 by the sewage treatment plant to recreate that road that came through under 93 all the way back out mathematically, based on the highway bounds that are out there. So you'll have where the right-of-way of Collins Street is in that location was based on a taking by the Interstate 93 project. So that's what leads me to believe that maybe this concrete post over here is probably the point that they're talking about, because this project was done prior to this deed to the town. The Cody family deeded after the I-93 project was put through. So the newer tax maps that are out there show the town going right to the river. They don't show my client owning any land on the other side of the river. But the prior tax map to the new ones that we have showed his lot going across that river. Not that tax maps are are always accurate. They're just a general guideline of what people own, because people are reading deeds trying to piece stuff together. My client's deed definitely goes past the river, and I'll just read what his deed talks about so that you have an understanding about the conflict of a survey that was done for the town but not recorded at the registry. I don't really know what the purpose of it was. It's always nice to get stuff recorded at the registry when there's survey work being done, but I think it was mainly done for something to do with the transfer facility and that type of stuff, so that the company doing that would have some idea on what the limitations might be. And so this is the description to my client's property. Certain tract or parcel of land located in the town of Ashland in Grafton County, state of New Hampshire, being noted as tax map 3, lot 2-1 on the Ashland tax maps, located northerly and westerly of Collins Street. So if you look at my plan, you can see, okay, northerly and westerly of Collins Street, which it is, okay, with frontage on Collins Street being 650 feet more or less, southerly on the northerly boundary line to the point where the road crosses the Squam River. Then 75 feet more or less on Collins Street, on the westerly side of the Squam River, which is the other side of the river. So that would put us over where the brow of the bank is. Okay, and then it goes on the westerly side of the Squam River. Abutters being Collins Street on the east and south, town of Ashland on the west, and now or formerly of Maryland Lemire on the north, which would be the Templar property on the north. So very, very, very poorly written deeds for this whole area. I'm going to tell you, I've researched this thing back to the early 1800s because it was an old mill site. And even their deeds don't really define anything great. They'll give you some dimensions and some bearings, and then all of a sudden they just give you, like, then they'll say, thence along the road. Well, you don't know how far along the road, right? Because they leave that portion out for some reason. So because of all the confusion with the deeds, and I'm convinced I could research this even more, but I don't really need to because the town's deed is very specific about what they bought. They went to the top of that bank. It goes to a stone post. I don't find any stone post at 400 feet. My assumption is that stone post is the one that's 800 feet away because it's the only one out there. So I'm looking to do a boundary line agreement with the town to help clarify these boundary lines for my client as well as for the town. The plan will be recorded at the registry. My client will pay to have the deeds drafted up. We were talking with Fred at the beginning of this. We started out talking with Fred, and he said, oh yeah, we need to get this straightened out. So I went out there, I marked because the law says that you have to monument all the angle points in the boundary line agreement, which I did. I went up there, and if you look at the plan, I set rebars all along the top of that bank, okay? Marked and blazed a line on the premise that Fred said, yeah, no problem, just go ahead and do it. Then the conversation with my client, with Fred after that, was sending him to the planning board for an adjustment. No, it's not an adjustment. That's two things people get confused a lot with. Adjustment versus agreement. Adjustment is when we actually know where the lines are, and now we're going to move one of them to adjust the line between the properties. There is state law that you would have to go through the planning board if boundary line agreements are a part of the planning board's rules. Ashland boundary line agreements are not part of their rules, so we don't have to go in front of the planning board. And the planning board would just merely be signing off on it, okay? Some towns do, like Plymouth does, I think Rumney does. When you do agreements, you have to go in front of them. I always thought that was crazy. They wrote the law that way because it's really civil between the two abutters, has nothing to do with any of the other stuff, because there's certain criteria that this boundary line agreement has to meet. And that's why I have my note number 2 on there. It has that criteria, okay? And when the agreement's drafted up, that criteria from the law, the RSA, is a lot of times put into that document. So we would just like the board's input on whether they would enter into doing this. This is what I will tell you. If the board does not want to enter into the agreement, they just need to be aware, we're going to record the plan like this. I'll leave the note on there that I recommend the agreement, and whether the town ever does the agreement or not is beside them. But in order to clear it up so my client has, if he sells the property, he can tell the people buying it, this is where it is. I think it's in the town's best interest to make sure that they know where their lines are, so in the future when they're trying to do anything. So if the select board would entertain that, then we would have my client move forward with having boundary line agreement done up with the town And what I would do is I would record my plan so that the plan recording numbers can be right in the boundary line agreement as it's written, because then the plan becomes part of the agreement or the deed. So, that's what we would like.
Tony, I would ask, in listening to your analysis here and this kind of very detailed study that you did, seems that the point you're least clear on is the 400 or 800 feet. Is that correct?
Definitely.
Okay, so
Definitely just blew my mind, because actually years ago I knew that stone post was out there. I actually sent Asa up to find it for me before I got there to do my survey work.
Yeah.
And then I was appalled about how far it was. So I don't know how they came up with their dimensions. That's the
So let's say
problem.
hypothetically, there was a post at 400 and not 800. What properties would be affected by that? The town of Ashland?
The town of Ashland and Asa's property, okay?
So that
So
goes all-
if I went 400 feet and I found a stone post there, we would not be having this conversation.
Right. It would be defined at that rate.
It would be defined at that point, and I would feel very comfortable with it. I feel comfortable with my decision on what I did, but to make it ironclad for my client and the town, I feel that my advice is to get this agreement done so that it can be taken care of finally, right? And then if anybody surveys for the town or surveys his property or whatever, if people want to buy it and know where the lines are, they can go out there and they can see it. It just makes it, I'm a surveyor, so I think boundary lines are important things for people to know. It's part of my job.
Based on the topography, is this a logical boundary line in any way, or is it just kind of arbitrary? Like, does it go through the middle of the field or at the top of a bank?
No, I think it's a logical one for when they deed it off to the town, going along the top of that. It's a good break. Remember, Ace's property was part of a mill complex, right? They would have wanted to have all that so that they could back up water and do all that stuff. There are some deeds out there that talk about the mill pond, the paper mill. As a kid growing up here, the paper mill was always down there. No, actually there was a paper mill further down Collins Street.
Yeah.
And the mill pond that they talk about ain't the mill pond we all know of.
No.
The mill pond was further down the river.
Right. It's upstream. from
So
us.
over time, in the history, stuff does change. So we're looking to try to get this thing straightened out if we can. If not, we're going to record the plan and move forward, and then if whatever, I think over time it would ripen into something.
Can you just, I'm visual, can you just show me on here, like, where your adjustment would be, like, just with this red pen? Just kind of a rough thing where it's too
Lisa, did you
long.
want to say something?
Okay,
Yeah,
so-
I had a couple
so-
comments, but I'll wait until that's pointed out.
This right here would be 400 feet. Okay?
Yep.
That's the
We
problem.
want the right path.
Yeah.
So,
I'm like, what's this line?
but I think this is the corner that you're trying to get to. And this is the brow of the bank.
Okay, so this is all uphill here.
This is flat.
It is, just
This-
right here is uphill.
No, this is a gully. This is very steep right here. All of this right here is very steep coming down like this.
Yeah, it's
a riverbank.
unusable.
It's a riverbank.
It's
Okay.
unusable
Yeah.
land. It's
And it
literally
really makes
straight up
sense
and
that
down.
This wouldn't be part of this property only because of the shape of it and that this was a mill complex.
Yep.
There was a
Right.
mill down there, so when they wanted to dam up the water, this was a natural way for it to just rise.
Just for clarification, I'm not trying to pull a fast one. That land on the other side of the river is unusable. It's unbuildable. It's
Right,
it's
it's
quite
not-
literally in some parts straight up and down. So it has no use for either party, whether it's the town or
Right.
the private ownership.
Plus setbacks and floodplain. and-
Right. There's a lot that goes in with that. Yeah, I wanted clarification because the previous owners had sold it to us saying that the boundary was at the top of the berm, straight across. And the previous owner, I actually got to meet him before we closed on the property. He ended up knowing some of my wife's family, and he showed me kind of just with his arm roughly where the lines were, and that's how they've lived for 30 years. So we took it at his word, which isn't uncharacteristic of most people, especially up here in New Hampshire, right? So I said, okay, well that's great. I want more clarification on it. I wanted the best around, and everyone pointed to Tony. I called him up, and he's been working very diligently for over a year on this.
Wow.
It's kind of almost a case study amongst him and his peers.
Yeah, he wants
And
to put head on a pole.
No, not at all. At this point, I just want to bring the property that we purchased into the 21st century. I just want it to be, I want it to be able to, I want to have a clear title for future owners,
Yeah.
future ownership. I want to be able for the town to have an accurate tax for it. I mean, I just want to do what's right, and that's why I decided to come today with Tony. And it's been a long time coming at this point, and here we are.
July of 2023, I started it.
Yes.
But most of my projects are that way. No, seriously, because
Hope they
you would
pay
be
you by the
amazed
hour.
when you start reading the deeds, what issues you heard.
I paid him by the footstep. I'm running out of money.
You'd be done by now.
And should we make a, do we?
Mr.
do
Chairman,
we have
do you
to
think we can agree to this?
I think we can agree to this.
Okay, then I'll make a motion that we accept.
I'll second. I have a motion to accept Tony's drawing to make a boundary line agreement. Any further discussion?
No.
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And certainly if you do have questions later on, my number's on the plan, so.
We'll find you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably not
Speed dial.
going anywhere.
So you gotta.
I gotta put speed dial.
Hey, is that, are you?
Thank you.
You're done.
And thank you for that, too. It's going to be a heck of a time with
You had to.
the
Once you let one out, later, it's-
So we'll move forward with having the agreements drawn, drafted,
York.
the agreement with the town.
Yep.
Not to bring up the campground thing again, but, years ago, I surveyed the perimeter of that, we did agreements with all the neighbors there as well. So it's not an uncommon thing to do.
That was actually a question that
Yeah.
I had was, so it's agreed upon at this point obviously there's gonna have to be some sort of paper notification between us and you guys, of the town.
Yeah, it has to formally be consummated.
Right.
That will be the drafting of the agreement and the recording at the registry.
Can you make sure that Marissa gets a copy of that for?
Yeah, what I'll do,
The office.
do you want a preliminary, I hate to give out preliminary copies,
no.
only because
As long as we get a,
next thing you know, everybody's thinking that's the plan, because they
Yeah.
Right.
go,
Yeah.
Nobody would
they
ever
go
do that.
blonde
No,
on the
yeah.
progress printed on there.
Tony, when you get the final one, if you can send it
So,
over to me.
so at the end of the day, this is what happens. I'm required by law, when I do a boundary survey, to give the town a copy, or the planning board a copy. It's required by law. And every time I record at the registry, I do that. Because there's certain certifications that have to go on there. That we're not creating any new lots or ways and all that other good stuff. So you will get a copy, or the planning board will get a copy, and I don't know what happens when I drop those things off, I don't know what the town does with them. So,
Okay.
but the town will get a copy of the plan that's getting recorded at the registry's office. And it's very simple, I think, and I don't know if the town gets notified when somebody records a plan. Like, I know when they record a deed, you guys are
Yeah.
notified.
They get, it comes into the town clerk's office.
Okay.
We actually get mail that says this was done, this
Okay.
deed was done.
All
So
right.
we will get notified
Okay.
additionally.
And I always track my stuff to make sure that it does follow through with getting recorded and all that other stuff, because I think it's very important, because you'd be amazed at how many things fall apart at the end, and it doesn't get followed through, and now, later on, 15 years later, everybody's going, well, where is it? I hate seeing to be recorded, put on a plan, because it just,
Never gets recorded.
it's a red flag. It's like when you see a plan and it says, corners to be set.
yeah.
Now, I already know what that statement means. To be set by a different surveyor at a later date. So, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you for getting us in. I did send notice to the town hall, I thought in time, but thank you for taking us in.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Good to see you.
Thanks, guys.
So we have a tax payment agreement for lot number 111-042. It's in the amount of $140 to be paid by the end of the month. We just have to approve the agreement. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the agreement for the $140 due by the end of the month.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to approve the agreement. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Oh, yeah, I need to sign it.
So one person has to sign.
One person's got to sign it.
One
Charlie can
person is
sign it.
Charlie.
Okay. Okay, we have one item in non-public tonight.
Mr. Chairman, I have some business I'd like to.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can send it to me, that'd be great.
I don't know.
Thank you.
In response to the setup of the Economic Development Committee,
Yeah.
I have a number of applications that we received, and I would like to submit those applications to the board. And, a number of those individuals who submitted applications are here tonight, so the board can meet them if it so wishes. But I would like to put these forward and ask the board to begin constituting this board.
I would like to see I would like to have time to study the
Yeah.
applications.
Yeah.
These are all the applications, by the way, that have been previously submitted. They've been on file for a number of months. There's nothing, there's 5, and they've been sitting at the town hall for a number of months.
Is that all we got? Is just 5 people?
We have 6. The 6th, the paperwork is not yet available for the 6, so we're putting forward the 5 tonight.
Okay, have you got, okay, I remember seeing
Oh,
these.
here.
I actually
This
have
is
them all.
Bonnie, and is that
Yeah.
5? And
Jeannie?
And Jeannie, that's 5. That
Okay.
makes the 5. So, yeah, there's
All right,
nothing.
we've seen these.
Mhm.
I don't
We've seen
think
all of these.
I'm sure we have, it's just probably.
Yeah,
You
I've
can-
got them in my folder.
Yeah.
I don't remember this
Okay,
either.
okay.
It's been a while.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably the better side.
I'd say a number of these people are here, so, if you'd like to meet them, we could have the board address them or ask any questions.
Oh, that's nice. That would be great to get photos. Sorry, now I'm just discussing it, Dan.
Okay?
Gotta mute my mic.
So when you're done, ship them back here so I
Okay.
can make sure I get the names.
All right. I read that one.
And then I give you originally too.
I haven't read this one. I'm trying to put faces with names without making it awkward.
Well, if you call out one of the names, chances are somebody's here.
Sean? All right.
There you go. See that? You got a winner.
All right. Am I allowed to ask questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So Sean, you're a professor?
Yes.
And, what do you teach? Sorry, I'm trying to find it.
My formal title is Professor of Clinical Inquiry, but I'm in the Department of Physical Therapy, but I've also taught in philosophy and movement science and biology.
Interesting.
My doctoral work is actually in work environment, which is a combination of labor relations,
Yeah.
occupational health, and epidemiology.
Very nice. Sorry, I'm stealing all of the applications so no one else can ask questions. And you're currently at Plymouth State?
Yes, yeah, I came up in 2015,
Yep.
and we've slowly migrated. I closed on my house on August 30th and submitted this application that day.
Oh, wow, so you lived in the area, but you closed on your house in Ashland?
Yeah, well, we kind of moved our way up. We were renting in Bosco, and we finally got all the way up to where I'm now not commuting so far.
Nice.
Yeah,
You applied the
left,
next
right?
day?
The day I,
left, right?
Yeah, I think she
the
did.
day I closed. I had been looking at the town website for a while.
She's the one that's in the flower.
Currently pursuing my MBA because I'm interested in economic development.
Very nice.
So I saw
MBA
that.
at Plymouth, or?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay, I am gonna, who has not seen it? All right.
But when I came up in 2015, it was to start a physical therapy program. I was a professor at UMass for 18 years, and they recruited me to come up and found the program. I founded the program. We now have 7 full-time faculty, 90 students. We've graduated about 200 physical therapists in the area, actually from nationwide. And
Wow.
So you're the chair of that program now?
I took a sabbatical.
Okay.
And had someone else become program director that I've been working with, and now I'll be taking it back in the next couple of years.
Nice.
I took kind of an administrative break to focus on writing a bit.
Do you need to see this one of your sons? His?
We saw that one.
Good.
Bonnie. I know. All right. So Bonnie, I know you from last year, and we talked a lot about energy, environmental.
I would
Yeah.
just comment on Bonnie,
Nice.
we worked with her on the original WTE committee, and she was a real yeoman on that committee, did a lot of work, and her expertise in the business is exceptional. So I, appreciate having worked with her and look forward to working with her again.
Yeah, we had a lot of environmental conversations during that day, so that's nice. Good to see you again. Here, I won't pepper anyone with questions, I don't know. Is Peter here? All right, and Jenny is not here.
Jenny is
So
not
I'll
here
give
tonight.
Jenny's back to you,
Okay.
because we know Jenny.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Peter, you are a data engineer.
Correct.
Very cool.
Is that Clark's, the shoe company? Is it?
I just got really excited, but I didn't want to ask if it was the shoe company.
I can get you a discount.
Yeah, all right. That's really neat. And you've been with them since 2010?
Yeah, Fidelity Investments was one of that.
Very nice. And, sorry, I just want to see. You guys don't live far from each other. This is looking at. How long have you lived in Ashland?
So, my wife and I own the Cheney House right up on Highland, and we've been here a little over a year. And I think the reason I submitted my application is because I went to the planning board meeting when they had the development project. And that didn't seem like the right thing for Ashland, and
Gotcha.
I'm just a concerned citizen.
Sorry, was I not supposed to say this? Sorry. I said no. Very
Jenny
nice.
has this paper?
Yes, sorry. I was talking about the development that
Yeah.
that was in the planning board meeting. That's awesome.
Yeah, Peter.
Well, very nice. Well, welcome.
Thanks.
So these are the 5 you want us to vote on?
Yeah,
I
these are
saw-
5 we're looking
There was
forward to.
another gal in there that I saw. Is there someone else here that I missed?
Janice?
No, there's Jenny. There was
And Jana
Bonnie.
was here earlier, but she had a commitment and
Oh,
she had
I-
to go.
I did miss her. I was wondering. Okay.
Yeah.
I did not see hers. I think she was the only one I passed down and I did not see. So Jana or Jana?
Jana.
Jana.
Yeah, Jana.
Was the last one. Okay. Oh, retired. That's a nice one. Wow. Very nice. You got some good people there, really.
Is it? He has the one, I think.
Yeah.
I have the master copies.
No, I do store right now, and then, well, as soon as we do this, I'll give everything back to you.
Okay.
Did you see it?
Yeah, I've got
My
it.
office
Yeah.
copy.
Okay, got all of them?
I got all the names,
Okay,
5
then
names.
Marissa can have all the copies.
They're coming back to me. Okay. Relax.
So Charlie, why don't you make the motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we approve the applications of Jana Flores-John, Sean Collins, Bonnie Bethune, Jenny Angel, and Peter Ott for appointment to the newly created Economic Development Committee, which I think it's interesting tonight that we were doing budgeting, and I would just impress on everybody how the cost of running the town is not going down anytime soon. And continuing to find the revenue is a challenge every year. And we're looking forward to this committee to deal with some of the issues that will hopefully enhance revenue to the town going forward. My motion is that we approve these 5 applicants.
I'll second.
So I have a motion and a second to approve the 5 applicants to be on the, all I can think of is environmental.
The environmental board.
Economic Development Committee. Do we have any further discussion?
No, and then we'll vote on the other 2 when you're.
Well, as they
Sorry.
Come in.
As they come in, yeah.
I have a question. Are we the only 5 on the committee, or?
You're the 5
At this time.
the initial members.
Founding members.
Founding.
Founding members, that's the word.
Two.
Well, just for the record, the board has asked me to sit on the committee just representing the board, so that's actually 6, and we have a 7th who just didn't get paperwork.
We only have 5 chairs.
Yeah, well, we'll have 7, I promise.
7 chairs.
I was just gonna say, you guys and gals all have a diverse background and fairly large task in front of you for building up the economy of Ashland, so I wish you all the best of luck, and if there's anything you need from the board, by all means, let us know.
Congratulations. Oh, we didn't vote, sorry, I'll wait to say congratulations.
He wouldn't have voted for him.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Charlie?
Welcome,
swear them in.
welcome back.
Okay.
Who's signing these?
First meeting.
What do we have to
Yes.
say?
I don't
All right,
know.
we'll do
And we're
that.
gonna have the best.
Yeah, I will
Has to sign
contact
them.
everybody, and we'll kind of agree on an initial meeting, really for the purposes of just getting sworn in and getting all our paperwork straightened out and getting recorded. And maybe just an overview of some of the things that the board has been thinking about in terms of what this committee could accomplish. Okay?
Okay, so at this time wait a minute, any new business from the select board?
I don't
I'm gonna take that as no.
I didn't see it.
So at this time, we need to go into a non-public session. RSA 91-A-3.
No, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. Congrats, Mike, good to see you.
Thank you. Congrats.